Imagine a band that was at the top of their game as a rock star. Their music electrified millions of people, and their performances were legendary. At the center of it all was Van Halen, whose name became associated with success, innovation, and the powerful energy of rock and roll. But as with many legendary stories, the truth was much more complicated than what fans saw on stage. Alex Van Halen finally speaks out about Anthony, the bassist whose journey with the band was marked by challenges, tensions, and issues of concern. Early on, Van Halen members worked together and had the same goals. Michael Anthony was an important part of the band's sound. His high background vocals and steady bass lines gave hits like Running with the Devil and Panama more depth, while Eddie Van Halen's guitar wizardry and Alex's thunderous drumming often took center stage. Michael's harmony vocals were a big part of the band's sound, but as their fame grew, so did the cracks in their relationships. Halen, who was known for being strict and never giving up, often clashed with Michael's more laid-back personality, while Michael loved the benefits of being a rock star. Michael's music was more than just entertainment for Michael. It was a sacred craft. For Alex, it often seemed like a party. As the 1980s went on, creative tensions started to bubble to the surface. Alex and Eddie, who were the driving forces behind Van Halen's sound, thought that Michael wasn't contributing enough to the How to Write a Song. The Van Halen brothers were perfectionists who worked hard to make every note and beat sound better. Michael's laid-back style clashed with their strict approach. Alex spent many late nights in the studio perfecting his drum tracks, while Michael seemed content to go with the flow. To Alex, Michael's lack of involvement felt like betraying the band's mission. The anger grew, slowly at first, but could not be ignored as time went on. Things took a further turn in 1985 when Sammy Hagar replaced David. When Lee Roth joined the band as lead singer, the dynamics of the band changed. It got worse when Sammy and Michael became close friends and often stood together against the Van Halen brothers for Alex. The friendship between Sammy and Michael, which was full of jokes and treats, was very different from Alex and Eddie's focused approach. This made it feel like us versus them in the band, which made Alex feel more and more alone. Things reached a peak in 2006 when the Van Halen brothers made the controversial choice to replace Michael Anthony with Eddie's teenage son, Wolfgang Van Halen, as Alex's lead singer. This wasn't just a family choice. It was also a way for the brothers to take back control of the band's direction, which made fans very angry. Michael's backing singing had become as famous as Eddie's guitar solos, and Michael's leaving felt like a betrayal for him. However, he knew it was the right thing to do because Michael wasn't involved in the creative process and was becoming more like Sammy Hagar. It was very personal for Michael Anthony to lose the substitute. He saw it as a rejection that broke any goodwill he had left with the Van Halen brothers. Michael's problems, their joint projects like the band Chickenfoot, were often compared to Van Halen, and critics asked if Michael was just riding on Sammy's coattails. These comments hurt Michael even more, making him want to be even more like Sammy. The story that Michael's best years were over. Michael was also criticized for his part in Van Halen's creative process. While his live shows were praised, many people questioned what he brought to the songwriting. This made him think of how often he had been ignored by the band. Eddie and Alex Van Halen's larger-than-life personalities overshadowed Michael's. His friendly, easygoing personality made fans love him, but reviewers turned it into a story of laziness. Imagine being called the weakest link. In a band known for its innovative music, Michael's high harmonies and steady bass lines were important to Van Halen's sound, but he was often seen as a supporting actor, and the media's description of him as the reliable bass didn't show how much he contributed. Not only did his bass lines hold the music together, but his voice added to the melodies. However, Eddie's guitar pyrotechnics and Alex's powerful drumming often overshadowed these efforts. Michael's private life showed what kind of person he was. Torn on the one hand, he was a devoted husband and father who wanted things to be stable. On the other hand, he was a rock star who was expected to live a life of chaos and indulgence. The constant touring and hedonistic lifestyle of rock fame created a chasm between him and his family. Michael often felt guilty for missing important family times while juggling the demands of Van Halen. Even though fame was exciting, it cost him a lot. Despite these problems, Michael seemed happy on the outside. Known for his signature smile and easygoing personality, it hurt to be underestimated, and people still said bad things about him after he left Van Halen. His former bandmates were always in the background, and fans and the media often asked if his later successes were really his own or just extensions of Van Halen's legacy. The praise he got was bittersweet because there were doubts going around behind the scenes. Michael brought these ideas around with him while he kept up a positive attitude on the outside. His journey became one of quiet resilience as he negotiated the complexities of fame and family while trying to prove his worth. When Alex Van Halen thinks back on his years with Michael Anthony, he sees stark contrasts. On the one hand, Michael's harmonies and bass lines were key to the band's meteoric rise. On the other hand, his laid-back personality often clashed with the Van Halen brothers. Never-ending search for perfection, the stress, wasn't just about changes in music. For Alex, it was a bigger battle between what was expected of them and how they actually did it. Being in a band like Van Halen meant that they had to be perfect, and any mistake felt like a threat to their success. Fans, Michael's legacy is just as complicated. Honor him for his talents and charm, but remember that his journey was also full of fights and times when he felt left out. His harmonies became a signature sound for Van Halen, but behind the scenes there were fights and misunderstandings. Michael's problems weren't just at work, they were also very personal. Dealing with the unstable dynamics of a band with big personalities took a toll. Today, Michael Anthony's story is an ode to strength. Despite setbacks, he stayed dedicated to his work and his fans. He, like Van Halen, left behind a legacy full of contradictions, soaring highs tempered by times of tension, undeniable accomplishments balanced against personal sacrifices. Michael's journey is a story that shows how, as the dust settles on Van Halen's amazing success, there was a thin line between friendship and conflict, and people gave up a lot to become famous. Fans finally see Michael's gifts for what they really were: his harmony, his steady presence, and his undeniable talent. They celebrate him because they know how much he meant to Michael. It wasn't always easy, but his story is a powerful reminder that real talent and strength can shine through even when things get hard. Michael Anthony and Van Halen isn't just about music. It's also about the human cost of fame, the difficulties of working with others on a creative project, and the strength it takes to forge one's own path. Today, Michael still makes music, showing that his legacy is far from over. His journey inspires people not only as a musician, but also as a man who overcame hardship and came out stronger, with a story that reaches far beyond the stage.